Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy last Tuesday of the year, 2025. Can you believe it? Get myself live on the Instagram, I think. All right. I'm live. Good morning, guys. How's everybody doing? It looks like I found somehow. This is so weird. It looks like I have a comment waiting for me, but I don't know. It's from a live I did yesterday, which is so bizarre. How is everybody doing? Good morning. Good morning, Brian Burks. Guys, it's the last Tuesday of 2025. Can you believe it? I cannot believe how fast time flies. And it's such a reminder to be present in the moment because all of the holiday stress you felt leading up to Christmas, it's over in a day. That's it, right? Like one day, it's all of this lead up to that one day, and then it's over. So I hope you guys all had an amazing Christmas. I have a great topic today because it's something that I have had a very conflicting relationship with over the years since I was a kid. We all know about like the New Year's resolutions, right? The new year, new me. In fact, it sucks that I can remember being a 10, 12, 14-year-old looking at, all right, this is going to be the year that I really focus on my body and focus on fixing myself. Why are we always trying to fix ourselves? And we are always fixated on the outcome of fixing ourselves. And I want to focus on, and that really wasn't my topic today, but I want to focus on something that I find to be super helpful and a different way to look at setting New Year's goals, because I do think that this is so important, especially for women. If you are in the great age of being 35 plus, I turned 40 in 2025. I will be 41 in May. And I think that there are so many things that change in your life in your mid 30s into your 40s and 50s that it's important to actually look at your life a little bit differently. Like in your 20s, like you're still kind of figuring things out. And even in your 30s, you might still be figuring out. Hell, I'm 40 years old and I'm still trying to figure things out. But I have a lot more clarity on the direction of my life. And I have years and years and years of data that I can use to be able to make more educated changes into my lifestyle and my goals to keep improving. Because we can look at aging one of two ways. It's going to be working against us, it's going to be working for us. And if you want it to work for you, it means you have to have control and you have to have an understanding of how to work with your body, not against it. And a lot of people at the beginning of the year, because we are coming off of the holiday season where food has been obviously a little bit more free, maybe training has been taking a backseat burner, stress has been higher, and maybe you're feeling a little bit blah. It's typical and normal to want to get back to routine, to want to regain control, to want to feel better about your eating and back into that. But it's also important to note that that's why in those moments when you're feeling burned out by your structure, remember that structure does create freedom, and thinking about how good it feels to be able to get back into your routine. And obviously this week is that really weird week of the month or of the year too. We're in that place where it's like the holidays aren't quite over. We've got one more left, and maybe work is still a little bit, like on the backseat burner, but you want to start something new. And that's also why I wanted to put this episode out, because I know that a lot of people aren't really making big changes this year, but they might be thinking about big changes. And hopefully this will help you look at your year a little bit differently and look at the changes that you are making a little bit differently. All right. So let me just pull up my notes. I do have a few notes here that I want to make sure I touched on. Okay. All right. So going into the whole new year, new me thing, there is nothing wrong with looking at a new year. Like, it's a great opportunity for me to make changes. And I'm going to talk more about how to make that more effective today. The way that I think that most women who are successful, not just with changing their body composition, but with making progress in the gym, in business, in personal life, this is how they truly approach their year. What a lot of people do is they approach the new year like they have to revamp everything. And what happens is come February, they're burned out and they're back to their comfort zone. Like nothing actually changes. Even though they had the best intent, nothing changes because all of the things they thought they needed to change took entirely too much energy and effort, and they burned out. They just burned out because they didn't focus on some of the things that actually stuck. So this is what's actually going to help you stick. Annual resolutions typically do fail. Why? Because you're like, I'm going to do all of these things differently. and you think that you have to have them all figured out in the first week of the first month of the new year. And that's just really not how your life works, even with your body composition. And I'm going to keep this focus primarily on those of you guys that are looking to dial in training and nutrition habits to improve your body composition, lose body fat, get fitter, or maybe you're looking to improve, maybe you're feeling like your hormones aren't really functioning the way that they should be, and you're really trying to get a grasp on things and understand what's going on with your body. So before you go into the thought of like, fat loss, and I've got to lock in on my diet, and I know your goal is you want to look better, you want to feel better. You have to look at assessing first. And if there's one thing different you can do in the month of January, it's actually allowing yourself to assess what needs to be changed over the next 6 to 12 months. Don't try and tackle everything at once. It's like actually taking a look at what is impacting everything, because your body right now, where you're at, how you look and how you feel is a reflection of how you've been living for the last 12 to 24 months. I would say there's obviously habits that you've had ingrained in you for years and years and years, and maybe even a lifetime. But the changes that you're seeing really aren't going to happen permanently in like 6 to 12 weeks. It's really that like 1 to 2 years, you're now seeing the effects of the last 2 years of your life. And you can even think back. You can probably look at pictures or think about a time when you felt different, and it probably does resonate with you that, yeah, about 2 years ago or about 4 years ago, maybe. It's really looking at how there's been a long-term chronic change, and we have to get back to homeostasis. So we need to look at lifestyle first and look at what needs to change. So maybe it's things like your sleep has been off. Maybe it's like you've been under a lot of physical, mental, and emotional stress. Maybe you've had a lot of things going on with your family. Maybe it's looking at your nutrition habits. This is a big one, and I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to actually stop and talk about this right now. It's not just I'm counting macros and then I'm not counting macros. It's like, okay, what are you eating on a regular basis when you're counting or not? Like, that's what matters. What are you doing on a daily basis to make sure that you have nourishment ready for you? Are you someone that, doesn't have any kind of a plan? Do you need to develop a plan? It's looking at what habits need to change to become more consistent with your nutrition in order for you to make sustainable, permanent changes to your body composition. Because what you're committing to, you're not committing to this for 3 months. You're committing to this for years and years and years to come. This is your new norm. You're developing your new norm. And when we're looking at making these changes, that's why, it can feel overwhelming when you're trying to fix everything at once. Start looking at the little things that we can create momentum on. And then looking at your training. For most of my CrossFitters, you are following a structured training program, whether it's you're going to a class or you are following some kind of an online program where you're working with a coach. If you're not in the CrossFit space, maybe you're following something like Orange Theory, you're at 45, or maybe you're doing your own bodybuilding split in the gym, but you've got like a consistent, sustainable plan to execute on, and you know how to adjust that plan. But that's really the foundation. So before we actually get into the goal that you have for yourself, which is what most people do, they just jump right into fat loss. It's like, it's the new year, let me get on the deficit. And they don't look at all of these things that are holding them back for actually staying consistent long enough to be able to get themselves into a deficit that creates permanent change. So that's what we're looking at. Now, I want to talk about the secret sauce. This is the secret to actually creating goals that you can actually achieve and feel successful. And when we're looking at the new year, it's not about looking at making a new year goal. It's actually dividing your year into quarters. And it actually took me becoming an entrepreneur and looking at my nutrition business in quarters to actually realize how relevant this was to you. Because when you actually look at your year in quarters, it makes things so much more manageable because you're committing to things short term. It gives you an understanding of what you can expect. You're setting realistic expectations, and you're setting action steps in those quarters to create permanent change. And that's why the assessment phase is the first step. In fact, part of your Q1 goals might be Number one, I need to assess where I'm currently at. Number two, I need to pick the two things that are going to move the needle the most on the goal I have for myself for 2026, whatever that goal is. If you've been carrying around an extra 20 pounds of fat, and you've been trying to lose it for years and years and years, and even if you've lost it, you've not maintained it, or you lose it and you lose all of your fitness in the process, maybe it's time to figure out a more permanent strategy this year. Okay. So maybe your long-term goal is, I would like to lose 20 pounds and keep it off for good. Okay. So now we need to look at what are the biggest marbles that you need to move in Q1 to make Q4 so much easier for you. And looking not just at this year, but years to come. Okay. You don't have to tackle it all at once. And when you stop trying to tackle it all at once, it becomes so much more enjoyable because you find success in every single thing you do. When you're operating in a place of success, being measured by your actions, not just on the result, you find success and confidence in what you're doing on a daily basis. And this is what successful women do. Successful women do not see the result as the win. In fact, the result normally drives more desire to be better. Most women that are successful are never satisfied with the result. It's the truth. Most successful women will get to where they want to be and they will find something else to work on because they find success in the freaking chase. Success in the chase is what creates change. Because when you're actually motivated to see change, you show up every day, even when you don't feel good. You're motivated by the opportunity that something is going to be different in the future. Now, you want to make sure that you know what matters most for you to get to that goal. And every person that's listening to this is going to be at a different place. So maybe you're somebody that you're like starting from scratch. You have no idea what you should be eating, how much you should be eating. You're just kind of winging it. Maybe the first thing you're doing is just creating some structure to your meals. Like you're like, okay, I need to get to 3 meals and 2 snacks. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to balance what I'm having at those meals. I'm going to have some protein, carbs, veggies, and fats at all of my meals. And then maybe you're dialing in, the next steps. Like, all right, I'm going to start tracking my food because I've been feeling like I'm a little bit hungry in between my meals. And I want to make sure I'm getting enough, Maybe it's looking at things like that. Maybe it's nothing even, maybe you're somebody that's in a different, we'll talk about a different realm. Maybe you have done that. Maybe you've even went so far as like you've tracked every single macro, every single gram, and you're in a place where like you've got such a fucked up relationship with food that the thought of like just, you're just so overwhelmed with food noise. Like whether it's you've got to be so dialed in and locked in or you're just doing whatever you want. And you feel like the month of December was like your month of like finally freedom. And you're like, all right, I got to get locked back in. Maybe it's time to fix that relationship with food and find balance. Maybe it's learning how to be more flexible. Maybe it's finding a different approach because that approach wasn't making you happy. It's actually looking at what is going to move the needle most on what you want most in life. Okay. So the other cool thing is if you give yourself focus points with expectations in these quarters, in these first like 3 months, you can also be flexible with how you shift. If you know, like, all right, I'm going to spend the first 3 months of the year, I'm going to assess. I want to lose some body fat. So I want to make sure I'm focusing on the marbles that matter most for me to lose body fat, but looking at the things that have actually caused me to gain it and what was lacking in my plan previously. And maybe your body fat changes are, or maybe your strategy isn't so much about going back to what you were doing to lock in. It's literally fixing the things, the holes that have kept you from maintaining. And guess what? With that, body fat changes often happen as a side effect and you don't have to stress about it. Okay. So you can definitely do that. The cool thing about this is you get small wins and you can reassess. So I would really, really, really honestly tell you to try and find time this week to actually do a little bit of an assessment. Actually take some time and assess, all right, what are the biggest things in my life that need to change in order for me to get to my goal? And I do offer assessments, and my assessments, I call them metabolic assessments, but they're also lifestyle assessments. I look at all of the factors. I look at, okay, Not just like how much are you eating? What is your training like? What are your goals? It's okay. Like what is your lifestyle like? How much stress are you under? What kind of job do you have? What is your body saying to you? That's why it's obviously metabolic assessment is a piece of it. It's like, what is your body saying? Like, what is your gut doing? How's your energy, your sleep? I look at all of the things. I look at your diet history because maybe that helps you to understand why everything you've tried in the past doesn't really work. And rather than trying to tackle everything at once because you're so focused on the end goal, focus on making each of those things that I know how out of control it feels when you know that there is something holding you back from being happy in life and feeling so overwhelmed by changing it. And it's usually because you're trying to change too many things at once. So when you focus on one or two little things, it does make things really, really easy. So assessing and then setting some short-term goals for Q1. Short-term goals for Q1. And I actually haven't really done this myself yet. And actually, maybe I kind of have, but I haven't actually really wrote it down. So I'm going to do this myself as well this week. So if I can give you some takeaways for today, I'm going to keep today's episodes a little bit shorter because it's kind of that weird week. I know you're all are like, just kind of like, okay, Cheryl, like, yeah, I'm still living in Christmas world. Christmas cookies are still good. But I know there's a piece of you that's like, I got to get back on track next week. And I want you getting on track with change, not on track with going back to what didn't really work for you in the past. Okay, so let's make some permanent changes this year. So rather than looking at a new year, new me, or even having a little bit of a negative connotation over New Year's goals, let's look at setting quarterly goals for yourself. Quarterly goals give you something to achieve that you can actually make small, manageable steps to work towards. And I think that will set you up for success. And what's really cool is you can always go back and make improvements next year to the goals that you wanted to improve on this year. Every year might end up being the same thing. All right, every year I assess and then I pick one or two more lifestyle things that I want to change. Life is truly meant to be enjoyed, and you have to be enjoying the chase. The chase of the goal is what you live day in and day out. And if you keep, let me just end on this one thing. If you keep focusing so much on the speed of your results and how fast you're going to get there and measuring every single weigh in, you're going to continue to stay stuck. You are going to continue to stay stuck. If you look at it this way and you're like, okay, I've got a checklist every day. This month, I am focusing on tracking my food and sticking to a meal plan, meaning maybe a meal plan is like 3 meals and 2 snacks. That might be all you commit to. And your measure of success at the end of the month is, did I do those things every single day? Good, bad, or indifferent, I stuck to that plan. You did the plan. And guess what? If you did that plan, you have the data to be like, all right, what happened with my weight? Did I lose weight? Did I stay the same? Did I gain? Hopefully you didn't gain. But if that happens, now you know, okay, where do I need to optimize? Where do I need to make changes? That might be the simple thing that you commit to in the beginning of the year. And if you have fat loss goals, I'll be honest, that is the one thing that you should commit to, because that is the one thing that will move the needle the furthest for you. Data can be tracked, and what can be tracked can be changed. So that's all I got today. I hope you guys all have an amazing New Year's. If you guys need me, you know where to find me. If you do want an assessment or you want help doing your own assessment, just DM me assessment and I will know that you are looking for that, and I'll be able to send that over to you and we can chat a little about it. No pressure. It is always an offer and an opportunity for you. So good morning, Holly. I'm just going to check over on Instagram. Anybody else have anything else that they wanted me to talk about today? What is a Guten Tag? All right. Well, I'm hopping off, guys. If y'all need me, you know where to find me. Happy New Year.